Survive in Advance on the Gruely Truth Sports Network. Survive in Advance is brought to you by Replenishing Care Technologies, the future of sports medicine. To check out Replenishing Care and everything they offer, go to thegruelytruth.net, click on the Replenishing Care banner at the top of the page. I'm your co-host for Survive in Advance, Mike Goodpaster, and right now I want to welcome in to Survive in Advance a 1981 national champion with the Indiana Hoosiers and a man that for some reason picked the Detroit Lions to beat the New York Jets last night, Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
Doing good, Mike. How you guys doing today?
All right. I'm just glad I picked the Jets. Next up, my other co-host. Well, he's not a co-host because Steve's going to get mad.
No.
I'm sorry. But he is the foremost Iditarod dog sled historian in the world, and he's from Canada. So you put those two things together, we had to have him on to talk about the NFL. Help me welcome to the show, Lukas Weese. How you doing, Lukas?
Doing pretty well today, Mike. Good to be back on the show with you guys.
All right, and we're going to start off talking about last night, which kept me up to 1:30 in the morning. The New York Jets began the Sam Darnold era in a dominant fashion, winning 48-17. Darnold was 16 for 21, 198 yards, 2 touchdowns. But I think the bigger thing here is this game wasn't decided from anything other than Todd Bowles is just a better football coach than Matt Patricia. Matt Patricia's team looked completely unprepared, and the Jets just completely outplayed them in every phase of the game, Lukas.
Well, absolutely. And Matt Patricia, to me, the last 2 games he has coached in, Super Bowl 52, he gave up 41 points to the Eagles. The defensive coordinator, now as the head coach, he gives up 48 points to the Jets. And it's once again another Patriots coach to leave the Bill Belichick administration, if you will, and they become a head coach, and they just show that they're not as great of a coach as many people advertise. And Matt Patricia yesterday got completely outplayed by the Jets. And the Jets, they're going to be an improved football team this year. And I think Sam Darnold, he looked really great last night. I loved his ability to scramble. I think he looked really effective when he was running and throwing. And it's going to be, I think, a fun season for Jets fans for sure.
All right, and Steve, the thing that impressed me the most about Darnold was not the 16 for 20 for 198 yards and 2 touchdowns. The thing that impressed me is he comes out and the first throw he throws is a touchdown pass, but to the other team. And when you got a rookie quarterback, I mean, to me, you can show me highlight films. Like, when I coach arena football, I see highlight films people send me all the time. They send me good stuff. And then I would send them a message back, show me when something went wrong and what happened after it. And Sam Darnold was impressive because of that last night to me.
Yeah, I mean, the kid's youngest quarterback ever to play, start a game in the NFL, I guess, or start a first game in the NFL.
The youngest one this year, I think. I don't think he's the youngest, but I'm not sure about that. He may have been.
Yeah, I thought I heard he was the youngest starting quarterback ever to start a game or open season game. But yeah, you're right. It's immaterial. Just showed a lot of poise. I think he just cemented himself right now as a top quarterback in the league after one game. I mean, certainly he's not going to be up there with the Aaron Rodgers, the Andrew Lucks, or the Tom Brady's of the world. But just a lot of tremendous poise, and came right back and directed the other. What I was impressed with how he came back after the other team scored. He would come right back down and march and move the ball and move it in a field march, not just necessarily make big play rays. He was marching the ball. He was using offensive weapons of the running game and his passing game and directing the team up and down the field left and right. So I think they got a winner here. I think the kid's going to be okay.
All right, and also we found out last night that someday Lukas could do, color commentary on an NFL game because Beth Mowins does it, Lukas.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to have an opportunity that, to have females in the booth, but when, you don't really, I wish there were more knowledgeable people. I just think there are more knowledgeable people who could have, filled in that role. I think definitely the three of us probably could have produced a funner broadcasting that. What do you think, Mike? Have you ever broadcasted a game before?
No, they don't let me do that. It's because I'm so handsome. And when they show me on camera, I mean, people get fixated on me and they don't want to watch the game anymore. And I know Steve has had the same problem before because of his boyish good looks. I'll tell you, the biggest problem is the sound of her voice because, you know, I don't think Ian Eagle knows a lot about football either, and he annoys me too. So the bad thing is when I would turn the game on because I was at football practice, I get home, it's like middle of the second quarter, and I flip it on. I heard her voice, and I thought that the WNBA finals had started, Steve.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of comment on the reporters. I mean, I don't think it was a good choice.
She did it last year, too, if I remember, and everybody was freaked out.
She did.
Yeah, I just don't understand why everything in the world has to be integrated. It just can't be some things that are chalked up to be where they are. I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to get into this. She's got every right to be there as everybody else does. She does. I didn't particularly care for it. It kind of soured me on listening to the game for the most part. Maybe it's just the fact that it's abnormal to hear that, but I didn't think her voice carried well. I didn't think she was very insightful in the game. Was calling pretty much what I could have done from the couch watching it on TV. Didn't bring a lot to it, and I'd rather hear somebody who is going to commentate and speak that's either played the game or been involved in an extreme long period of time and understands more than just what we see with our eyes on TV. So I think it was an experiment not gone very well for ESPN, but, you know, I'm sure I'd get lambasted on Twitter if I put that on Twitter right now. So,
well, actually, on
so
Twitter right now, 90% of the people are on our side. Then we had the second game last night. John Gruden's long-awaited return to the sidelines on Monday night. The Raiders welcomed the Rams into Oakland and flirted with a win before ultimately losing 33-13 to a far more talented team. And let's face it, Derek Carr, their $125 million quarterback, imploded in the second half. I think the game was closer than the scoreline suggests. And I know everybody's ripped Gruden for his personnel moves, but last night I thought his team was prepared. I thought they were well coached. I think Derek Carr dropped the ball in this one, Steve.
Yeah, he wasn't very impressive. And you know, if they're going to put all their money on him, I've never been that impressed with him as a quarterback to begin with in terms of the kind of money he's getting paid to play the position. Been injured a lot. That team's not going to be a $100 million football team with him as quarterback for a very long period of time. And they're going to justify paying Gruden what they're paying him. They're going to step up their game on that position real quick. They're using some of those draft picks they got to get rid of the Mac and get themselves a decent quarterback.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Lucas, from watching that last night and looking at what they make, between the $225 million they're playing for a quarterback and a head coach, that money would have been better spent on Khalil Mack.
Oh, 100%. I mean, when you look at it, I was just going to make that point. I mean, when you look at what Khalil Mack did in the first half against the Packers, he was the first since 1982 to have a fumble, interception, fumble recovery, forced fumble, and more than one sack. I mean, the fact that they put all their money into Derek Carr, who hasn't really had, he doesn't have the experience of winning the big games. You saw it last night in the end. What was that lob pass? It was as if, it's like someone playing Madden video games. You tap the controller instead of holding it. That's what happened to Derek Carr. He lobs the pass and he gets intercepted. So, yeah, I don't think, you're right, Mike. I think they did the best they can, but the Rams are just talented top to bottom. I mean, talked early last night, over 100 yards rushing and a TD receiving reception. They're loaded, and I think this is a team that, for the rest of the league, it's going to be very difficult to beat because they look quite good last night.
Well, and the thing about them is the fact that they have what I think is one of the 3 or 4 best defensive coordinators that ever coach in this game, which is Wade Phillips. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Wade's a stud. And I think Wade Phillips is a bigger difference on that team than Sean McVay is even.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you just look at the teams that Wade's coached, his defenses are always elite, and they want to be a physical football team on defense, and you saw that last night, especially in that second half. Derek Carr was completely uncomfortable.
All right, we're going to transition.
Well, I got one more beef. I got one more beef too. What the hell in this day and age of all the money involved in football are we still playing football games on a dadgum baseball diamond for? Really? Seriously? Are you telling me that any team in the NFL has to go tear up a baseball diamond to play a football game in this day and age when $500 million stadiums are being built left and right? Every team north of I-540 or I-70 has a dome stadium. And I'm sitting here and watching the Oakland Raiders play on Oakland A's baseball field. Seriously?
Yeah, that's why you're going to watch the Las Vegas Raiders in a couple of years, though, because they couldn't get into the stadium in Oakland, so now they're going to move.
Isn't Stanford up there in San Francisco somewhere? I mean, isn't there a football stadium somewhere? Can't they cut a deal to share? Can't they get a deal to share the 49ers stadium with them, like half the other damn teams that have two cities and one team do now? Seriously, that just takes away the game. See the damn football game played on a baseball stadium.
Actually,
that was okay back in the 50s when Y.A. Tittle was throwing footballs and Frank Gifford was
I like
throwing
it because
footballs.
It reminds me of when Y.A. Tittle was throwing footballs. And what I hate is when you got a place like Indianapolis or Minnesota that have a dome. To me, a dome bothers me more than playing outdoors on some dirt. Football's supposed to be played on dirt and grass. Not that much dirt, but...
Football's supposed to be played on grass, not dirt.
Yeah, can't play it
I'll
on
give you
grass
that.
in Indianapolis because there's a dome.
Well, that's fine. That's the modern way of the world. That's progressing with football. Let's go back to 1930s helmets, put those on our head too now. We're start going back to the way Y.A. Tittle played the game.
Well, Y.A. Tittle
let's
played
take away the face
50s
masks.
and 60s, and they had face masks.
Oh, whatever. You got my point.
Yeah,
the point is get with the program and find yourself a football stadium to play on. It's got either turf or grass or something that looks like a damn football stadium and not like you're wedging a football field between first and third. I think there's ever a chance it's all kept coming into my brain.
Which was a great book that we're going to have the author on here someday soon. His name's David Rapp. Go check it out on Amazon. All right. Do you like how I transitioned that? We worked that in with it. Also, Saturday, we had a U.S. Open women's final that people are still talking about, and the headlines are probably not what they should be. Serena lost the final to an up-and-coming great tennis player, Naomi Osaka, who she lost to a couple months ago, too. But instead of that, we're talking about Serena Williams' meltdown, which led to the New York tennis crowd booing the 20-year-old Osaka during her first major. What's your take on this, Lucas? Is Serena wrong? Was the judge wrong?
Well, first of all, I'm just going to say that, the moment, my big takeaway is that Naomi Osaka is a Grand Slam champion, and I felt so sorry for her that she had to, go through all that controversy, because when you win a Grand Slam, it's a special moment for a tennis player, especially for Osaka, 20 years old. She deserved that championship. She outplayed Serena, controversy aside, she outplayed Serena that match. So to me, the fact that she was very emotional on the stage, and even before it said, she felt like she had to apologize for winning. I mean, it just shows the type of scene it was there with the crowd booing and Serena's antics. But moving to the controversy, the umpire was in his legal right to do what he did. If you look at the rule book, which I did, it's pretty black and white. I mean, the coaching violation to start with, everyone coaches in tennis. And to me, there should be a rule in place that allows some coaching to take place. It happens in golf with caddy, happens in boxing when a boxer goes over the trainer. It happens. But an umpire in Carlos Ramos is who's a stickler to the rule. And to me, the problem is this: there's an inconsistent application of the rules in tennis to begin with. And every umpire is different. And I think it's become more lenient what players get away with. So Carlos Ramos is getting ripped apart, but what he did, warning, point penalty, game penalty, that is completely within his right. What I think he should have done, though, is allowed Serena the opportunity for the sake, for common sense, just to calm down. If you say to her, look, if you're going to continue to berate me, I'm going to give you a game penalty. Because that's what happened here. Serena just kept going. A lot of players, when they smash the racket, they're on their best behavior afterward. But then what happened was Serena just kept berating the umpire, calling him a thief, calling him a liar. And clearly Carlos Ramos, didn't want to take that, so he gives the game penalty. But he had to have thought that in that moment, in the crowd, that moment could have taken away, the happiness that Naomi Osaka could have received by winning the Grand Slam. She was 2 games away from the match up a break. So I think they're both wrong. I think Serena, her behavior was deplorable. We've seen this before in 2011 and 2009. But I think the umpire he wasn't his legal right to do what he did, but I think he should have provided the opportunity to allow Serena to have a chance to calm herself down, pull herself together for the sake of the match, given that context and that atmosphere.
So you agree with Serena that she should get special treatment?
No.
I think
because
the rule is she broke her racket, she verbally abused him, and the coaching thing, her coach admitted to doing. So I don't know why now it's the umpire that did something wrong. The umpire, and you said this, umpire did what he was supposed to do.
And that's what I said. But there's a difference between, legally in the rules and also thinking about the common sense of the match. When you look in 2011 at the U.S., and this is where I go back to the point of inconsistent application of the rule. When you look in 2011 when Serena got, a point penalty for yelling during a point before the point was over, and then she verbally abused, arguably verbally abused that umpire. That umpire took it, and she didn't say anything. Now, many people debate about, whether or not she should have done something, but at the end of the day, again, it speaks to this inconsistent application of the rules by the umpires. If every umpire acted the same, then I would believe players would be less likely to do that knowing the consequence. But Serena knows the rule. She needed to calm herself down like a lot of players who have smashed the rack in the past and got a point penalty have done. And I think the double standard point that she brings up, I don't see a correlation, Mike, because, you look John McEnroe, 1990 Australian Open, he got disqualified for his behavior. So and there have been many players in the past to get game penalties. But I think in that moment, it could have just been one set. She probably would have kept going. She probably would have kept berating him. But even that one sentence just to say, Serena, if you keep this up, I'm going to give you a game penalty. She kept it up, and then the game penalty. But it just seemed to me it was just so rushed that, okay, it's in his legal right to do, but it's also not a practice that's applied by every umpire, which I have a problem with.
Okay, so this umpire did what was supposed to be done, but he ruined Naomi Osaka's moment, is what you're saying.
That's what I believe. Now, can she control the crowd?
How did he ruin his moment? It was Serena Williams, who's an over-entitled tennis player. She's rich, she does what she wants. She turned this into a feminist rant, and you just told us that John McEnroe's actually been kicked out of a match before, forced to forfeit. You're with a guy also that is probably the best chair umpire there is out there because he actually follows the rules, but yet you're going to blame him. Williams was fined $17,000. She also, I think at one point a few years ago, threatened to shove a tennis racket down an umpire's throat. So this is not the first time it's happened, and I don't know why she's getting a pass from people.
No, I mean, look, I am not like, look, I definitely, sifted through Twitter, read articles, and I'm definitely not on the ESPN stand where it's pro Serena anti-umpire. I think that, again, you got to be very careful because I think at the end of the day, there's a lot of people out there who jump to these blue sky conclusions. They're just not factual, especially when it comes to the double standard. Because in my recent memory, Mike, as someone who's watched the game a lot, who's seen a lot of matches, I don't remember an example where a male player in recent memory did exactly the same thing as Serena Williams. And therefore that makes the double standard argument null. Serena kept just, continuing to escalate the moment and what she was trying to prove. And you're right, Mike. She definitely was selfish, especially when she called the tournament referee out and was starting to say how if I were a man I wouldn't be treated this way. Of course, because of course that ruined the moment because that got the crowd even more raucous and booing and whatnot. But I just think that I think it was both that had a part. I would say 70% Serena, 30% umpire. I think the umpire, of course, is there to enforce the rules. At the end of the day, you look at tennis matches, coaching happens all the time, but umpires do nothing. And I think that's wrong.
Well, if you think that is wrong, how can he be 30% wrong, or how can he be 30% wrong here, Steve? What's your opinion?
I'm not saying in that instance, Mike. I'm not saying in that. I think he was right on that. I think he was right on the racket smash.
I think he should have defaulted her from the match. So when she's crying and acting like a fool and saying that she has a child and you're calling me a thief or a cheater. She needs to shut the hell up. Steve, what's your opinion?
I don't even know where to begin on this. I'm going to be a while, so just ride with me here for a second. First and foremost, this is bodes why you shouldn't have microphones around the referees and on the court with the players. I just think they shouldn't be there. These are conversations that need to be held between the players and the referees or umpires. This private discussions held, pleading your case, stating your case, having debate, go back and forth. This is why I hate instant replay. This is why I like the human element of the game. Human element of the game plays a part of it. I don't like the fact there's microphones around here picking this all up, people hearing half the conversation, trying to cover the mic with your mouth and all that. That's number one. This stuff should be done privately. If she has an issue, she should have called out the tournament director and said, I have an issue here. All right? That's number one. Secondly, don't feel bad for the girl that won. She walked away with $3.8 million, the U.S. Open trophy. She's ranked number 7 in the world right now. Her income is just quadrupled overnight. Don't feel bad for her. Get some thick skin and handle it, baby. That's the way sports are. You win through adversity. You win with adversity. You win in good times. And the great champions win when things get going tough, and they handle their poise, they handle their character. So don't feel sorry for her. She's fine. She's the U.S. Open champion. Quit crying on a national stage after won the tournament. All right? That's number 2. Number 3, Serena showed no accountability in any of this. All right?
Yeah.
Here's the rule. The rules are black and white. You slam a racket down, it's a code of conduct violation. She'd already received a code of conduct violation for coaching. Her coach, after the match, admitted he coached her. He said, yeah, I coached her. Serena gets up and says, I don't take any coaching. The rules don't say it. It says the player doesn't have to see it. If the coach is caught coaching, whether the player sees it or not, it's a code of conduct violation. He admitted coaching. He said, yeah, we all do it. And they probably all do it. Why is there a stupid rule saying you can't give hand signals from the sideline? Well, why does that rule even exist? Who cares? If you're that focused enough that you can take direction and coaching from somebody, in row 12, section 5, seat 5 and 6, and can still focus on your match, maybe you deserve to be champion. So that rule is still the rule to begin with right there. Take it out. What if they want to get coaching? I mean, you're right. Golfers have caddies. I mean, caddies effectively are coaches. I mean, every caddy now spends every waking minute on the range with the coach that the tour player has, and listens to everything he says and repeats everything he says, reminds you things. That's coaching on the course. Why is that a big deal? Every sport has coaching in it. Football has coaching. Basketball has on-court coaching, on-field coaching. I know it's an individual sport. There are no individual sports anymore. Every one of those tennis players in this top 16 have a swing coach, a guru coach, a nutrition coach, a conditioning coach, a wardrobe stylist, except Serena, who doesn't have much of a wardrobe stylist.
I think
they have a team full of people. So there's no individual sports anymore. You know, I sidebar just a second, give NASCAR some credit here, because I was watching the Brickyard 400 yesterday in the rain delay, and, you know, here's Clint Boyer leading the race, like for 50-something laps out of 160. He comes in, and he's in the lead. He's dominating the race. He's going to win it. Comes in, speeds in the little pit lane. He missed the mark. He got over the variance. They give him a 5% variance above or below. He missed it. They penalized him a lap. He's taken out of the race. He knew the rules. They have tachometers. They spend part of their practice time in the pits making sure that they know what that tachometer says at the speed that they can get the maximum amount of speed without going over the rules. He broke the rules. He got penalized. Didn't matter that he was leading. We didn't cut him some slack because, Clint hadn't won a race in a couple of years, hadn't won a Brickyard. He's a good guy. We all like him. He's favored. Let's let him get away with this one. No, it's black and white. The rules are black and white. Serena took no accountability in her own actions. You know, at some point, and the referees, the umpires, they're human. All right, some days they have a greater tolerance for bullshit than they do on other days. Some days referees wake up and they're in a good mood and they're like, you know, I'm just a little less loose, a little more loose today. I can take a little more crap today than I could yesterday because I had a bad day because I lost the money in the stock market. That's human nature. Maybe she caught the referee on a bad day today. But I read an article by Martina this morning before we called in, by Martina Navratilova, saying basically most all of this is on Serena. Serena didn't represent the game well. She didn't represent herself well. She totally blew this thing out of proportion. She had no leg to stand on in terms of rules violations, code of conduct issues, or anything. And she just tried to get away with it and then she cries feminism and because I'm a woman and all this. And see, there we go again. And I think the big thing is I don't like the fact that there are mics down there that we're hearing what they're saying. I know it makes for sensational television, which is exactly what happened. The other girl that won, Naomi, I think is her name, good for her. She's filthy rich now. She's got more money coming in. She knows what to do with. She's got a U.S. Open title to her name at the age of 20. She's going to be fine. And Serena pretty much made an ass of herself. And the referee did what he was totally within his legal rights to do. And I think we ought to just move on and go on and pay her $17,000 fine, which doesn't mean anything to her. That's like us paying, that's like us paying $1.50 for parking meter violation. You know, where instead of paying $20 to valet park your car, so you all park in the lot and pay the $1.50 fine. That's about what that is to her. She'll never even miss it out of her paycheck. She probably writes it off as some kind of a tax break. It's somewhere down the road.
Well, the only thing that I disagree with you on, Steve, is not having the mics down there. Because I think if you look back to NFL films in the 60s and all these sports that have progressively done this, I think that the sports have become more popular because of that. Because people have a bigger
I'll give you that.
It. And you know what? This is the thing. If you wouldn't have had mics there, Serena would be lying about what was said to her.
Exactly.
It's a good point, too. Yeah, it's a good point, too. But I still don't think it makes it right. I still think, Mike, you know, you're a coach, and you have played and you have coached in the heat of the battle when things are not going your way, when you're not coaching at your best, your teams aren't responding to your best coaching, and you just get so frustrated with stuff. And stuff comes out of your mouth, actions come out of your body that you wish you could take back before it even got halfway out of your mouth, or you start your bodily motion to make a gesture or something like that. You know it's wrong the minute you're doing it, but you do it anyway because you're caught up in the passion of the moment, in the heat of the competition, and things of that nature. People sitting there in armchair quarterbacks, watching this stuff on TV, not being participants, announcers who haven't played the game at that level, in tennis, you know, with McEnroe and those guys there, most of those guys have, and But it's a different world. And it's when you're caught up in that emotion of it all, you react differently mentally than you do when you're sitting there. We are right now on a radio show saying this is what should have happened because we all have 20/20 vision and hindsight is always perfect. The fact of the matter is she was getting her butt beat. She wasn't playing well. I really don't think for giving her back the game, she wouldn't have won anyway. The girl was kicking her butt.
That's the whole case here. She was getting her ass kicked. She was embarrassed.
Getting her ass kicked anyway. That's what she was frustrated about.
The frustration didn't come from the point penalty. It came from the fact that she was getting her ass kicked.
That's exactly right. She was getting her butt kicked. Then she gives the guy, for some reason, calls out and it was an ill-timed opportunity to call a warning on a guy coaching from the box, but he saw something. He's within his right to do it. He made the call. It was just a code of conduct warning. There was no point, no damage done. And she went off on that, and then she misses a return, slams her racket down, and she knows immediately, just like when Clint Boyer pulled into the pits, and I heard the chatter radio on the box came out to speed and goes, yeah, all right, coming back in. I mean, he didn't sit there and argue, call the referees, the NASCAR officials, and argue with him. She goes, they got me. They're always pushing the limit. They're always pushing it, trying because 1/10 of a second wins a race. So, and it's the same thing here. She pushed the limit. She threw a racket, and she knew that was going to be a code of conduct. That was her second warning. If she's into the match, she's thinking it, she knows it, and then she wants to debate that, and there's no debating that. It's a clear-cut rules violation. Second offense is a loss of point. And then they come in and start calling, get into a bantering name of the referee. That's just one of those things, again, that's just emotion coming in there. The referee took as much of it as he was going to take. At some point, he says...
When she threatened him,
yeah,
that was it.
And he took enough of it. I mean, she called him a cheat a couple times before he did anything about it. And she questioned, she started questioning him about, he was questioning her values. I don't cheat. I don't need to. I'd rather lose with integrity. Okay, well, you weren't doing that either. You weren't losing with very much integrity. That's for sure. So, to me, almost all of this falls on Serena. It's a pattern of behavior with her. It does come with some entitlement for what she's accomplished, and that is part of what's wrong with sports, but it is part of what sports is all about. So I think that this needs to be moved on. Don't feel sorry for the girl. Was her name Naomi?
Yeah, Naomi Osaki.
Naomi Osaki. Don't feel bad for her. She got over it, and she's over it to, like I said, the tune of a lot of money, a lot of recognition now, and a lot of stature in women's tennis. She's going to be considered an upcoming star. Getting a lot more TV time. Endorsements are going to go through the roof for her now. Everything's all good there. You got to win with adversity, but I put almost all the blame on this, as did Martina Navratilova in the article that she put on the
tennis player of all time.
Yeah, one of the greatest. I mean, it's hard to always define. I hate to put the greatest on any one person because everybody has their own characteristics and traits that made them great. But she certainly is in the mix of conversation with anybody you talk about with women's tennis. And, she put the onus back on Serena. That Serena didn't handle it. It was ugly how she handled it. She didn't do a good job with it. And there was just, to my end, there was no accountability on Serena's part whatsoever to diffuse the situation and move on and not even show any respect for her opponent who was winning a career achieving a lifelong bucket list goal, a dream, and Serena single-handedly took that away from her. Not the referee, not the crowd.
Yeah, but
Serena took it away from her.
The reason I don't really feel sorry for her is this. If Serena wouldn't have done that, we wouldn't have been talking about it. Probably nobody.
Exactly right. That's what I said.
And they definitely wouldn't have talked about it 2 days later. And I think Serena had a Mike Tyson moment. If she could have jumped over there and bit that girl's ear, she would have.
No, I really don't think she had an issue with the girl. I really don't. I think she knew she was getting her butt kicked.
She had an issue that she was getting her ass kicked.
Right. Like I said, give her back the point and take away the code of conduct warning. Let her get coached. And I guarantee you, I'm 95% sure the outcome doesn't change.
Well, it's kind of like...
It showed...
I'd say the biggest comparison is it's kind of like when Lukas is being out-debated by us, and then, he just starts throwing a fit. And we get those stupid texts and stuff, and you know how it is, Steve. Lukas, you got anything to add? And
in terms of favoritism toward men and women in sports and things like that, I don't know. I hate going down that road because we get right back into divides and we get back into separation and everything like that. I like to think that, what the things I learned about Coach Knight is that referees had a higher tolerance for Coach Knight because he built up a higher tolerance. He worked the referees better or harder than anybody, and all it did was it built up referees' tolerance to him, so he naturally was going to get away from it because he had a different threshold or bar with the referees than a lot of other coaches did. And that's how he was able to do it. It wasn't something that they were afraid of him or anything like that. He just worked them to a way that the tolerance of Knight's antics on the court were just much higher than they were for many other coaches. And he was able to use that to his advantage time and time again. He pushed the envelope sometimes, often. I saw many a technical foul that he got, but most of his were calculated. But this whole deal here was just Serena getting her butt handed in the U.S. Open, frustrated. I'm sure it's been somewhat of a tough year for her. I can't imagine what she's trying to do tennis-wise and have a new baby and raise a family. I mean, some of the guys don't understand. I'm sure it's not psychologically and physiologically.
I'm sure she doesn't
got to be difficult on them.
So.
No, I'm sure she does, but still, the whole process is what your body goes through, I assume. You can only assume, but she just was getting outplayed by a better tennis player on that given day. It was the second time in a row now this girl's beat her. I think that was frustrating to her, and I think the coaching code of conduct thing came out of the blue. How that kind of seemed to trigger her for finding an excuse to sidebar why she was getting beat, and then the racket slam, which she had to know immediately she did that was going to cost her. Anybody that's involved in the game as much as she is, and won as much as he has, plays much tennis, knows at that point if you've already gotten one code of conduct warning, the next one's going to cost you a point. So
Lucas,
I'm done with it.
To add, or are we done?
Yeah, you guys hit the nail on the head. I think, Osaka's going to be off to a great career. I think Serena needs to take a hard look at herself. But I think at the end of the day, in the court of public opinion, I don't think her reputation takes that much of a hit because, mainstream media, they were, and the players, who are obviously the majority, they are in full support of Serena.
Yeah, because
and
they're stupid.
Because we
live in a time
they couldn't do
where everybody goes to the lowest common denominator. They're going to defend her, and I think this is why she did it, because of the rant she put out there about being a mother and you're calling me a cheater. And she was just an asshole. She needs to apologize for it, and anybody that's on Serena's side is an idiot.
Hang on. A couple points here. One is, this isn't even really about – this is really what it's about is the media dragging us on so they've got something to talk about. This whole story's come up on the Today Show. Today is what, Tuesday?
Yeah.
It's been on every day since it's happened. They had Naomi on yesterday. They asked her every question. What was it like? Were you crying? It's like, get over it. All right? Let it. But see, it's news that they can drag. You have to understand. Again, I keep going back to my thing. With all these 24-hour news channels, you have to understand, people, news doesn't happen 24 hours a day. There are lulls in the news process. Where something actually doesn't happen, it's newsworthy.
Yeah, and if
so
they
drag these stories on.
You've got ratings.
Yeah, and this is a hot story for them to take, to go on. And here's the deal. To talk about Serena, Serena gets up and says, when they're all standing on the podium, she's like, come on now, no more booing. Let's don't boo anymore. What Serena should have said was, hey, y'all, listen.
I'm sorry.
Whether without the penalty, she was kicking my ass anyway. She was going to win this match whether I got penalized or not. So cheer for her because she outplayed me today, and she deserves to be your champion. So if you want to boo me because I didn't give you my best effort.
Hey, and if she would have
done
boo
her,
that,
and don't,
she would have went down a legend.
It had all been dead.
Yeah.
It had all been done.
Now, we would hear for the next 3 days how gracious a champion.
Right, how gracious she was. Now she took defeat, and she just said, I got frustrated. Everybody gets frustrated at the time because you're not playing well. I wasn't accountable to myself. But do not sit here and boo. Cheer her because whether I got penalized, whether I got into a verbal dispute with the referee, it wouldn't have changed the outcome. She was beating me today, and that's why you need to celebrate her and not get hung up on me. That would have changed everything. But then again, like I said, for us guys on the radio or doing shows or podcasts or TV shows, hindsight's always 20/20. It's easy to do. At that point, she's fuming because she's lost the battle with an opponent. She's lost the battle with a referee. And people like Serena Williams don't like losing. And they don't like placing blame on themselves for losing either. And that's essentially what it boiled down to.
Right. All right. So we're going to transition.
College football.
And we're going to talk a little college football. Lucas, the coaches' polls out. You got a top 10 of Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Wisconsin, Auburn, Notre Dame, Stanford, and Washington. What's your take on the top 10? Who do you think are the teams to beat right now? And is there anybody in the top 10 that you think shouldn't be?
Well, look, I mean, it's so early in the year. I thought that Clemson, maybe shouldn't have been ranked as high, given that they had a tough win, but they pulled out a tough win in Texas for the first time since 1959.
Yeah, but should Alabama be ranked above them for beating Alabama State?
I think Clemson should be ranked higher. And I think that, but the problem is that these polls, I think they're obsessed with Alabama, and to me, until Alabama loses, they're going to be in the number one spot, and which is a shame, but c'est la vie. So, but I'm okay with it now. I think a team that may drop out soon of the top 10 is Oklahoma. They lost their running back Anderson last week to an injury, a pretty serious injury. So they're going to have a tough time these next few weeks to try to remain in that top 10 spot. A big game this week is Auburn LSU, and I think the winner of that game should definitely be in the top 10 heading into next week. But overall, I mean, it's very early. I think all the teams in the top 10 have, made somewhat of a case right now that warrants them there. I think the polls are, will always be obsessed with Alabama, and until they lose, I don't see them not being in that number one spot.
Yeah, and Steve, the Big Ten was supposed to have a great year this year. So far, Ohio State and Wisconsin have started off well, but against poor competition. When you look at this, though, Purdue's 0-2. They're a team I think people thought would start off a lot better than what they have. Penn State had trouble with Appalachian State, but did win. Michigan, of course, has already been beaten by Notre Dame. When you look at the top 10, and Michigan State loses to Arizona State, when you look at this, I think the Big Ten may not be as good or as deep as people thought headed into the year.
Well, they've still got 4 teams in the top 11. With Penn State, Wisconsin.
Ohio State.
Yeah.
There's 3.
Ohio State, 3. I'm sorry. I thought there was 4. There's 3 teams. So they still, along with the SEC, own 1/3 pretty much of the top 10. I just don't put a lot of credence in these early season polls. I don't put credence in polls anyway. I'd rather be talking about the BCS power rankings and where those things are shaken out. I think those are a little bit more relevant because those determine something.
There are none until like week 8. But the thing is this:
then we shouldn't really be talking about this.
Also.
Okay, all right. Well, the Big Ten. I mean, as long as the Big Ten is going to set up their divisions the way they're setting it up right now, they're going to shoot themselves in the foot. They've got to spread those 2 divisions out and get some equal balance on there. You've got too many powerhouses in one half of the division of the Big Ten, and the other side kind of wide open with a lot less competitive teams in it. And you're going to be knocking off a lot of your best teams who are never going to get a chance to play for a BCS or be competitive beyond mid-season because they got to start playing each other. I think that's a flaw in the system right now that the Big Ten needs to address immediately and balance it out to give themselves more of a chance to put more than one team in the BCS Bowl Series. Because as it stands right now, I think Wisconsin's the only team that stands alone really in the other division, isn't it? Don't the rest of the teams all line up in the
I think Iowa could challenge them this year. Nebraska was a team people looked forward to because of Scott Frost, but they lost to Colorado 33-28 this past weekend. But yeah, I mean, Wisconsin usually pretty much has a walk to the Big Ten championship game, and then because they play a poor non-conference schedule on top of it, you end up not being prepared to play an Ohio State, a Michigan, or a Penn State. But yeah, I think Iowa's a team that, and you heard this here first, I think Iowa will come out of that side. They'll come out of the West because I think they're going to beat Wisconsin. They're going to beat Wisconsin September the 22nd. They're a very good defensive team. If you look at them, they played Northern Illinois, beat them 33-7. Northern Illinois is usually a decent team at least. But then they played a very good Iowa State team and beat them 13-3. So offensively, I don't think they're that great. But with Wisconsin, the problem has always been their defense is good, the offense is not that good. And I think when they go on the road, Wisconsin does, to Iowa here in 2 weeks, I think they're going to have a lot of problems. Lucas, I know you disagree with me since you went, ooh.
No, I'm actually admiring that. I like the bold prediction for on in the year. I think it'll be a really close. I think it'll be a great game. I think it'll be probably one of the Marks games to watch in September. But I don't know. Is Iowa playing at home that game, Mike?
Yes.
Ooh, okay. So I think Wisconsin wins by a field goal. I think they find a way, and yeah. But I'll have to do a little bit more research into that. But it should be a great game. But I like the bold prediction.
Yeah, and also I think this. I think Northwestern's a team, even though they lost to Duke, that could cause some problems. But really, when you look at the West, it's going to be between Wisconsin and Iowa, I think. And when you look at the East, I think Ohio State's probably running away with it. But I think Penn State's dangerous as long as they got Trace McSorley at quarterback. When we go to the Big 12, I mean, as you said, Oklahoma lost their starting running back, Rodney Anderson.
Running back.
But, yeah, that's what I said, Rodney Anderson. But I think the team that's scary here is Will Grier in West Virginia. I don't think they're defensively, I don't know how good they are, but Will Grier, they've got the best wide receivers in football. And I think right now, my early Heisman Trophy pick is Will Grier, the quarterback at West Virginia.
I can agree with that. I mean, Will Grier's been off to a really good start. And I think right now, look, Oklahoma still has Kyler Murray, who's looked good the first couple weeks, but the offense will become more shifted around him now, not so much, using the run to set the pass. But I really I would say right now West Virginia comes out of the Big 12 because of how well Will Grier is playing.
Okay.
Another thing, like SEC. Florida losing to Kentucky, that was the first time since the 80s that happened.
Now, what did you say? Because it sounded like somebody snuck up behind you and tried to chloroform you or something.
No, I know you don't like Kentucky that much, and you probably think they cheated to win. Maybe accurate, but they still got the W.
Cheat in football. They suck too bad to cheat in football.
That's true, but they still beat Florida and broke the streak. They just wanted to throw that in there.
Somebody tell me the last time Florida was any good, because I don't see what the big deal is there. If they beat Georgia, I'll give it to them, and they're real. But I don't think winning that game means a whole lot. Steve, Notre Dame, overrated or not overrated?
Hard to tell. I mean, they're not a BCS bowl contending team, if that's what you're asking me. I don't think they're going to be in. If they go undefeated, they will be, just because they want Notre Dame in there for television purposes, draw audience. Notre Dame's got the largest following pretty much of any college football team there is, with the exception now maybe of Alabama, but I think Notre Dame's still probably bigger. But from what I've seen in the first two games, they didn't overly impress me against Michigan, and they didn't look impressive at all against Ball State when they can't pull away from Ball State when they're playing them at Notre Dame Stadium. But this is just Notre Dame's moniker. They'll plug along. they won't go undefeated. They'll get beat by somebody down the road, and they won't be a contender. And they'll get hopefully they'll only lose 1 or 2 games. They'll get a nice ball game out of it and go on, and they'll call it another successful season. I think the days of Notre Dame winning national championships anymore are just too far in between, long gone.
Well,
I think the academic standards at that school.
The academic
Brian
standards
Kelly
at that school
possibly
are not what they used to be, Steve. Brian Kelly's just a crappy coach and a horrible human being.
All right.
That's just my opinion.
I think so. So no, I don't. I think Notre Dame is probably right about where I would expect them to be in the opinion polls of teams. Everybody wants Notre Dame to do well. They like having Notre Dame. It's the consummate college football program. But I don't think that they're worthy or going to be in contention of a BCS spot to play for the national championship. I think the bigger story this week is the return of Urban Meyer to Ohio State.
That's not
he
this
actually
week.
is at practice
That's
this week.
After. He can't come back.
Oh, is that next week?
Yeah, it's next week. Because he's out.
I thought it was
for
the third
3
week.
games. Yeah.
Oh, but he can't coach. He can coach this week. That's right.
Oh, he can. Okay.
Yeah, I think the TCU is this game, right?
Yeah, he can't coach.
This is their third game. They play TCU. He can coach. He can coach in practice this week, but he cannot be on the sidelines of the game. That's what it was.
That'll teach him.
So that'll be interesting to see. What's the question?
I said that'll teach him.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that was tough, wasn't it? But anyway,
I gave you a prediction for 2 weeks from now, Lucas. How about this one? Boise State goes to Oklahoma State and wins. And I think Boise State, by the end of this year, will make a run at a playoff berth.
Oh, yeah. I agree with that. I've always, Boise State always brings back fond memories of that Statue of Liberty play in the Fiesta Bowl with Oklahoma. So they're always a feel-good story. And you probably know more about this, Mike.
Wait a minute. You're saying a playoff berth in the BCS?
Yeah.
Oh, you're nuts.
I didn't say they'd
Jesus, Mike,
I said they would be in the running.
No, I didn't say they would get there.
That's even nuts. Of all the stupid things I've heard you say since we've been doing radio together, that's in the top 2.
Why is that?
It just is. They're not going to contend for the BCS. They don't play a schedule strong enough to. They aren't a good enough football team, and they won't draw.
All right,
and they're not a darling national media team.
They
will not be there.
They are
a
darling
SEC
for a lot of people because of that Oklahoma game. I know that, Steve. What I said is they will contend. They will be in the conversation. They'll end up ranked 5th. But when you look at them, they are loaded. This may be the best team they've had. Senior quarterback Brett Rippon, whose dad I think is Mark Rippon. He's throwing for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns every game. And the thing is this, if they go to Oklahoma State and beat Oklahoma State, that puts them in the conversation. Oklahoma State's ranked in the top 25. They're a Power 5 conference team, and it is away. And the thing is this, with the SEC, how many teams are going undefeated? And the thing is, Central Florida last year got shut out because when the first rankings came out, they were nowhere in the top 25. If Boise State has a win at Oklahoma State, I think they're going to open up in the first, national championship, whatever they call it, power rankings. I think they're going to open up in the top 12. And if they open up in the top 12 and keep winning and these other teams lose, I think they're going to be in the conversation. I think they got a chance to finish in the top 6. I think they will play on New Year's Day in a bowl game at the very least.
All right. Well, that's a far cry different than playing for the national championship.
No,
all right. I'll give you the fact that they play a nice bowl game. Well, I think right now Indiana's in the conversation too. They're 2-0.
No,
and they're in a power conference.
Because nobody in the world thinks Indiana could even get close to beating Boise State. No way. Boise State has a quarterback that will probably play in the NFL. Boise State right now, by the coaches, are ranked number 17.
Don't knock Boise State's not a good football program. I'm just saying they're not. We won't be in any serious conversation. They'll be in the fantasy conversation about BCS championship games. They won't be in the serious conversation. They'll get into your fantasy picks. Oh, wouldn't it be great to have UCF play Boise State for the national championship? That'd show Alabama and Clemson and Auburn and Ohio State we'll put two teams out there that nobody belongs in there. They're undefeated. Okay. They belong there.
So they don't belong there.
They don't belong there.
They don't belong there. So Central Florida didn't belong in the conversation. They didn't belong in the college playoffs.
They belong in the conversation, sure. The fantasy conversation.
But they didn't
which is right where they ended up.
Over a team like Alabama last year with 2 losses.
Alabama would eat them for lunch if they played
Alabama would eat them for lunch.
Alabama would have destroyed.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
What would Alabama have done against Auburn last year?
I don't know. I mean,
that
would have been a much better matchup than Alabama-UCF.
Really?
I'd have rather seen that game than Alabama-UCF.
Auburn played Alabama last year.
Okay.
Auburn won.
What was the result?
Auburn beat them by double digits. And then what happened the next game to Auburn?
They got beat.
By Central Florida.
I guess. Okay.
So
and
I think
Georgia.
Yeah, and Georgia. And I think it is crazy to think that Central Florida couldn't have played with them because we have no reason to know that. And last year, Alabama's schedule was not real tough. And, I mean, if you remember last year, I think UCF beat Memphis twice. They beat Navy. That was 3 teams that were ranked in the top 25, which may not be a big deal. But when you look at Alabama's schedule from last year, Steve, they started off, let's see, they beat Mercer. They beat Florida, who everybody beats Florida nowadays. I just don't see this. The teams they play every year are a joke, unless the SEC is tough. And last year, the first good team they played was Auburn, and Auburn beat them. And then they went and played Georgia, and Georgia beat them. They lost 2 straight games, but were still ranked above a team that was ranked in the top 20, or a team that was undefeated, that we don't know about. I mean, Alabama shouldn't have been in the college playoff last year. I mean, last year, Steve, they started the season off with a game against Florida State, and Florida State was a losing team last year. They beat Fresno State at home. They beat Colorado State at home. They beat Vanderbilt. They beat Ole Miss. Beating Memphis is a bigger deal than beating any of those guys, because Memphis was a decent team last year. And so was South Florida. But when you look at it, they beat Mercer. They beat Florida. They beat Chattanooga. I mean, come on. They don't play anybody. And they played Louisville to start this year out. And then they played – who did they play last week? They played somebody.
Alabama State.
They played Alabama State last week. Boise State beat UConn, which is at least a Division I program. And they beat Troy, which is a Division I program that's been in a bowl game for the last 5 years. And they averaged 60 points doing it. So I can tell you this, there's no way that Boise State can schedule Alabama because Alabama's not going to play them in the regular season.
No.
It's too big a risk. But, they'll play Kent State. Alabama will play Charlestown Southern. And the thing is, the last couple of years, the SEC's been down. The only 2 good teams in the SEC outside of Bama last year beat Bama, and Bama still got to go to the playoffs.
And won.
Yeah, and won. So I think the way college football is nowadays with the scholarships and everything, these teams are closer together than they've ever been. And in the end, I just think having a 4-team playoff is stupid. I mean, there's got to be at least 8, and there should be 16. The thing about 8 is, a team like Central Florida or Boise State could get in then, and then we find out.
For sure.
But to sit here and write a school off as, well, they can't because they're not Alabama is not fair. You're not giving them a chance to compete when you only go 4 because, as you said, the money's going to talk. You go to 8 or 16 now, I think the money would talk even bigger because if you had Central Florida in a first-round matchup against Alabama last year, I think that gets huge ratings because you've got your David and Goliath matchup, which is what's made March Madness so big. And March Madness is a lot bigger than the college football 4-team playoff. I mean, March Madness would be nothing if since 1976 all they did was take the top 4 ranked teams. But just my opinion.
Okay.
So, somebody's supposed to say something.
Yeah,
I agree with you. I agree with you in the sense that they need to expand the playoffs. I think it shut everybody up, just expand it out to 16 teams. I can't even remember really the last time that I've seen a bowl game completely sold out, any of them anymore.
No, just the Final Four sells out, basically. Maybe a Rose
Yeah,
Bowl
the rest of them don't sell out
Bowl.
anymore. I mean, you watch some of the ones in mid-December, and they're barely even half full, if they're even half full.
Yeah, because it's a bunch of 6 and 6 teams.
Right, exactly. And I think that the theory there is we have to protect the bowl games that aren't being utilized for the BCS series this year. And I think that's nonsense. I think they would do better to fill those major bowl games with playoff games, get a better attendance, get a better draw, keep the integrity of the bowl game, and put 16 teams in it. And then you give the UCFs and the Boise State a chance to compete. But until then, it's not going to happen because it's a popularity contest.
Yeah, but
it's a
I
TV
think it's
ratings
crazy
contest.
to say that those teams couldn't compete. Especially when you look at Central Florida's got a quarterback who's a Heisman Trophy candidate this year. They had multiple players drafted into the NFL last year.
Yeah. I give you that. But under the current circumstances, the current configuration where it sits right now, it's not going to happen. I think UCF proved that last year.
That's why they'll be in the conversation.
Was there just 2 undefeated? Were they the only undefeated team last year? How many undefeated teams were there last year?
They were the only one.
They were the only one, and they don't get a chance to play for the national championship? Yeah. That's wrong.
And the thing is this.
That's absolutely wrong.
They had 3 wins over top 25 teams, so it wasn't like they were playing, Florida International and all these crap teams. The South Florida and the 2 wins over Memphis last year, those were good football teams.
Yeah, that's why I say it goes back to your fantasy BCS versus the real BCS. The real BCS is television-driven, television ratings-driven, money-driven, attendance-driven, history, nostalgia, sellability. UCF is not going to be a big sell. Most people couldn't even tell you where UCF is.
Yeah,
if you did a poll right now.
I think Boise State has more of a chance because there is a history there. And
the blue field. All I remember about Boise State's the blue field.
Really? So you don't remember like the greatest upset in college
Yes,
football?
I remember. I do. I'm being facetious.
Or the fact that they went undefeated and played undefeated TCU in the Rose Bowl too at one point. And that was just a couple years later. So what I'm saying is, with Boise State, there's a history. So, and the other thing is this: Boise State gets to play a top 25 Big 12 opponent on the road. Which last year, if UCF would have played Auburn in the regular season on the road and beat them, I think they would have gotten in because then it's almost impossible to keep them out. But I think also what Boise State needs for that to happen is for them to pound Oklahoma State, and then Oklahoma State finish up 10-2 and ranked in the top 15. But other than that, they're going to be kept out. But my point is, I think they're a team that is deserving to be there, possibly. We'll see. All right.
Well, deserving to be there and being there are going to be two different. Again, it's a fantasy poll, the fantasy tournament versus the real tournament. Sure, they deserve to be there if they accomplish everything you say they're going to accomplish. But realistically, even if they do, it's UCF proved this last year. Even if you do accomplish everything you were supposed to accomplish, beating 3 top 25 teams, going undefeated, they still didn't get in.
Well,
and that's a flaw in the system right there.
And the way the world's going, Steve, 5 years from now, it'll probably still be 4 teams, but the 4th team will be the worst team in the country because they don't want to leave out teams that suck. So you'll have 3 really good teams and then the worst team.
And Indiana. And you'll have Indiana.
Yeah. No, Indiana's undefeated. I could feel a Big Ten championship this year, Steve.
Well, I can feel a bowl game. Well, who's Indiana got left they can beat? Anybody?
Yeah, it's Indiana. Indiana football is the shit, dude. Indiana will be fine.
So who else? Do they have another game they can win this year? Purdue.
Sure.
I think they play Purdue this year, don't they?
Well, Purdue will get
so they got a third win.
Hold on.
It's those last 3 wins that are going to kill them.
They should have one more cupcake. Of course, Virginia was a good win.
So Indiana.
Yeah, they play Ball State at home, which Ball State shot their load against Notre Dame probably. They'll probably blow Ball State out. They play Michigan State at home, that's a winnable game. That's 4-0. At Rutgers, 5-0. At Ohio State, 6-0. Iowa at home, 7-0. Penn State, 8-0. Minnesota, 9. Yeah, I can see 12-0 real easy here, and then playing Alabama in the first round of the college playoffs.
All right.
But really, I could see this team going 5-0 into the Ohio State game.
I'll bet you all the tea in China that doesn't happen either. So
I will make a prediction here right now. The Indiana Hoosiers this year will go 8-4.
Wow, you heard it here first, folks.
Yeah, nobody will remember
That's good they do.
about Indiana football. Which brings me to the fact that tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Eastern, live, we get the Indiana Basketball Weekly Show, the first show for this year, with myself, Steve Risley, as always. Plus, Colin Hartman will be joining us as a special guest, and he will be a co-host, not a special guest like Lukas. Will I be allowed to call him a co-host without you getting mad, Steve?
You definitely call him a co-host. He's going to bring a lot of great insight into the show, a lot of stuff, nuances about the program as it sits today, not as it sat in 1976, 81, or 87. A different mentality, a different look at the traditions, the culture of Indiana basketball. He played for both Tom Crean and was in a transition year with Archie Miller. So I think Colin's going to bring an awful lot to the program in terms of what Indiana basketball represents today, the juggernaut that they're on to rebuild the relevance of that program. And I'm really looking forward to having Colin as a co-host. I coached him in youth sports for a long time. He's been a family friend for a long time, and he's a well-spoken kid. He's got a lot of good insight into what Indiana's doing today. And it's something unique that most other radio shows or IU programs can't bring on, the fact that we have two former players that will tell you what actually happens in the locker room, not what broadcasters want to perceive as happening in the locker room. I think you'll get a much better insight, a much better perspective as to what the thought processes are of events that happen on and off the court by the coaches and by the players, and how the team's progressing throughout the course of the season. So hopefully you'll join us for a weekly basis from pretty much starting the 1st of October. We are going to go ahead and do an introductory show tomorrow, introduce everybody to Colin, and give you a taste of what's to come for college basketball season.
All right. Also, tonight, live at 9:30, the NFL Pick'em Show with Lukas Weese. Lukas, are you coming on tonight still?
Yeah.
You didn't sound too sure about it. But also, with Lukas, you'll get myself, Brian Schmidt, Manager Scavenge, Tony Pike, who was a quarterback with the Carolina Panthers for a bit before he got injured. Also led the University of Cincinnati Bearcats in 2009 to an undefeated season until they met Tim Tebow in the Sugar Bowl. Also, tomorrow at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, me and Joe Kelly will be on to talk about the Cincinnati Bengals beating the hell out of Steve Risley's Indianapolis Colts. And then tomorrow night, of course, at 8's the Indiana Basketball Show. And at 9:30 will be the CFL Weekly Show with myself, Brian Schmidt, and four-time CFL Grey Cup champion, Robert Drummond. Almost forgot his name. That's bad. And then, I don't know. At some point, we'll have an Inside Boxing Weekly to preview Canelo and Triple G, their second fight, which is coming up Saturday night. Friday, you can hear myself and Steve and Lukas if you want to come on and talk about the fight. I don't know if you like boxing or not. Since you like golf and NASCAR, I thought maybe you weren't a fan of manly sports.
I am not a fan of NASCAR, but boxing, I dabble in boxing, but not. I don't know if I'll pay for it, though. I'll have to find a link online.
All right. So if you want to come on and talk about the fight Friday, you can, but we'll have award-winning author John Raspani on the show, who wrote with Dennis Taylor Pictures by Ed Mulholland, the book about the Arturo Gatti Mickey Ward trilogy, which, Steve, you have to watch at least the first fight before we do this show on Friday. But the name of that book is Intimate Warfare, which you can pick up at his Amazon. It was on the Amazon bestseller list for like 35 weeks. You can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, TuneIn, iTunes, Spotify. Wherever you hear sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Lukas Weese, Steve Risley.
Hang on.
Hold on.
Jesus.
Here
The
the freaking golf show. I forgot about the freaking golf show.
The golf show. Yep.
Can we talk about the Ryder Cup final selection? Because I can't wait.
Yeah.
We can talk about that. We can talk about the teams being set. Yeah, we'll focus pretty much mostly right now on the Tour Championship. The top 30 are set to play. Some notables did not make the cut, and some people have surprised and elevated their game even to a higher degree, and might actually be in contention to win this thing. It's pretty much a wide open tournament right now. A lot of the guys that were playing good earlier in the year are all of a sudden falling off just a little bit, and some new players are coming in that are going to really come from the possible 20th position on back to have a really strong chance to win the Tour Championship. This is the Super Bowl of golf. So be it for the professional golfers. And Lucas, when do we plan on doing that show? Tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Okay, and we'll probably just tape this show. And therefore, since there's a lot of live programming going on tomorrow with other sports that Mike deems more appropriate and listenable, so we'll tape the show, and we'll have it up for you tomorrow night at some point in time. Be on the lookout for The Golf Show, hosted by Lukas Weese and myself. Lucas, is it Weese or Weese?
Oh, good.
It's Weese.
Lucas?
It's Weese.
Is it Weese or Weese?
Weese.
It's
Weese.
If you're in Europe, it's Weese, but in North America, Weese. So
in Europe, you're Stefan Risley. So,
my mother was born and raised in Germany. I'm half German. So where I come from, it's Wies.
Yeah,
that's why I'm asking.
Yeah,
I'm trying to.
Steve's
Unlike
half German and half full of shit. But all right.
unlike Serena Williams, I'm trying to be polite and be accountable and make sure I'm pronouncing the young man's name correctly.
All right.
There you go.
Lucas, I got one last question for you.
Okay.
Mike and I'd like to know how your putt-putt game is.
Pardon me?
Mike and I would like to know how your putt-putt game is.
Putt-putt game? Oh,
yeah, your putt-putt game. No, your putt-putt game.
I have no comment.
No, he's not very good then. Because I would like to bring up, I played for the first time 3 weeks ago. First time in 6 years, and shot a 4 under par, 39. I just wanted to bring that up. So, Steve,
mini putt.
Yeah.
Okay.
What did you think we were talking about?
Well, putt-putt could be anything. But anyway,
what else could putt-putt be?
What is anything? What else could putt-putt be but putt-putt? I want to hear this.
I don't know.
It sounds like it can. Putt-putt might be a sexual term.
Yeah, I think that's where you thought we were going with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Christmas.
Anyway, okay. So if you meant mini putt, I did very well. I shot 2 under par.
See, I was 4 under. I won. So.
All right, Mike. Good for you.
Dominant. I even told you what I scored first, so it tells me you probably were like 3 over par, but didn't want to enhance it so much to make it sound unbelievable. But, so guys, if you found this show entertaining, you can come back tomorrow at about the same time to hear myself, Steve, and Lucas, if he's not in jail, on Surviving Fans. So, once again, for Lukas Weese, Stefan Risley, and Mike Goodpaster, you've been listening to The Grilling Truth, where the legends speak.